Hello, and welcome to the video. So you paint miniatures, right? Have you ever thought it would be really cool if I could make some money doing this? Well, have you ever considered doing commission work? Well, I have, and I've done it now for over 10 years or so. And I thought it might be kind of interesting to share some of my experiences with it and help you decide whether or not this is something that is right for you. So, if you think that sounds interesting, stick around and I'll share with you some of the things that went right and some of the things that went wrong, and a lot of things that you have to consider whenever you are thinking about jumping into this. So, with that, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I thought that I would cover 5 different topics that you need to think about if you are considering doing some commission painting. The first one is going to be what risks there are. The second one is communication. The third is time. Fourth is money. And the fifth one is burnout. To get started with what risks are associated with painting commissions. Well, something that you have to consider is that this is other people's property that you are being responsible for. They're either going to ship you or hand you their miniatures, and some of these miniatures are not easily replaced. You know, a lot of them come from Kickstarters, or they might be some rare game that nobody else has, and these people are going to entrust you to keep these guys safe. A multiple number of things can happen. Your dog could eat one, just like it used to eat your homework. An animal, a kid, or something like that can get a hold of these miniatures and destroy them. If you're like me, and if you drop a piece on the floor and it just teleports to another dimension to never be seen again, that's another real risk if you lose a piece or something when you're building the miniatures. Because a lot of commissions that I did, I actually got miniatures on sprues, and I would have to clean them and put them together and everything. And heavens forbid if I would have dropped one of those pieces, or if my kids would have come in and wrecked them up or something like that. I mean, there's no way I could have replaced a lot of the miniatures that I've painted over the years because they're just not available. You know, a lot of Kickstarters, once they're done, you're not going to be able to get those miniatures to replace them. And then there's always the risk of what happens after you get them all painted and then you go to ship them. Well, I mean, there are a lot of instances where packages can get lost or damaged, and I know you can buy the insurance and such, but the client might question whether or not you packed them well enough, and then it's going to be a lot of you said, they said kind of thing. Once you put them out for shipping, I mean, it's completely out of your control what happens to them. If it gets lost, I mean, even the client could accuse you of not even sending them, of keeping them. So there are a lot of risks that you have to consider, that you have to take into account that might happen as you're painting, and it could really kind of lead to a bad situation. You know, the miniature painting community as a whole is very small, and now with today's, you know, with the internet, if somebody has a bad experience, they are certainly not going to be shy about getting on different social media posts and bashing you and saying that it was your fault. Something else to consider is if they're not happy with the quality of the painting job that you did, that's a very real risk. You know, if you're not keeping them updated throughout the process and they're not agreeing that it's okay. But if you're like me, taking a picture of the miniature, they always look a little different than they do in real life. So this is just a whole lot of things that you have to keep in mind that could happen, and you may end up in a bad situation. Now, I've been very, very fortunate, and I haven't had anything like that happen to me while I was dealing with stuff, but it was always a concern. The what if something happens, how am I going to deal with it? But as I said, I've been really lucky with it. A lot of precaution. I'm super paranoid about how I store these guys when they're in my possession. I certainly take more care of them than I would my own miniatures. So that's just something to consider. It's not all fun and games, and it can really just put you in some stressful situations if you're not careful. Number 2, communication. Whenever you first start out, you probably won't have any trouble finding clients. A lot of people buy miniatures, they buy games, board games, units, and they enjoy the playing aspect, but they don't so much enjoy the painting aspect of it. And I have never been short of clients whenever I did advertise my commission work. So you're definitely going to find a lot of people. But one of the keys that you have to keep in mind is that good customer service is going to come with a lot of communication. And the first thing is you want to be honest with the person right up front of what your painting skills are. You can't promise these people that they're going to be able to enter these miniatures into a competition and win gold. If you can only do tabletop quality and they're okay with that, that's fine. You can send them tons of pictures of miniatures that you've already painted, and that's fine. You know, they can judge your work based on those and decide whether or not you are going to be able to perform to what their expectations are. But you need to be honest with them. You can't promise that you can paint something that's beyond your skill level, and then you're going to go back to what I mentioned in number 1, where they're not going to be happy with the painting quality, and they're really going to be unhappy with the final product. So you're going to have to communicate with the client and right off the bat figure out exactly what they're looking for and what their expectations are. Have them be very clear with what colors they want you to use, what level they want it painted to, how they want the miniatures assembled. That's very key, especially, for instance, whenever I would put together Warhammer figurines. Some clients would be very specific with what they wanted their guys equipped with. So that's always something to consider too, that you're building them correctly and that you're very careful when you're building them too and don't damage them. Are they going to expect you to remove every mold line? Are they going to expect you to fill in all of the gaps? That can add a lot of extra work to the process, and it's something to consider. And then what I like to do is communicate throughout the entire process. As I'm painting them, you paint up a few miniatures at a time or one unit at a time, however you prefer to do it. And then you send them update pictures so that way if there's a problem from the beginning, if they're not happy with the level of your paint job, you're not going to waste your time and paint 50 to 100 miniatures. And then for them to come back and say, these are all wrong, I'm not happy with them. Maybe you're using the wrong colors or such. So what I like to do is paint up a smaller unit to begin with, or a smaller group of the miniatures, whether it's a board game or Warhammer or something like that, and just kind of get their opinion on them. You know, are they happy with it or not? And then you can kind of go on from there. But yeah, as I mentioned, communication is definitely a big part of the process and something that you need to be comfortable with speaking with your clients. I just wanted to say, if you're finding this video interesting, if you could do me a favor and like and subscribe to the channel, it really helps out a lot. It gives me motivation to keep going, and it helps with YouTube pushing the video out there to more people. So yeah, I would really appreciate that. And please let me know in the comments if you're thinking about commission work or if you've ever done commission work. I would love to hear your experience with it. I think it would be really interesting to discuss it with somebody else and see how they've dealt with these issues as well. Now, the third topic I want to talk about is the time that it's going to take. I'm sure if you paint miniatures, you know that it takes a lot of time to paint even a few miniatures. So if somebody hands you a unit of 50 to 100 miniatures, or a board game that often has over 100 miniatures, you have to set a realistic expectation with them that, hey, it's going to take me a long time to get this painted. Unless you just have free 8 hours every day that you can sit down and paint, or you are a very fast painter, but you can still keep the level that they're looking for, you kind of have to set a realistic time frame for the client and tell them, you know, if it's going to take you a couple of months or whatever it's going to take. I know for me, sometimes with a family, a full-time job, sometimes I only have an hour or two to paint each day, if I can paint each day. And I make sure to tell the clients right up front, it's going to take me, it might take me 6 weeks, it might take me 3 months to get this painted. And then just check to see if they're okay with that. A lot of times they understand. Or if they're not, they're going to look somewhere else. Or if they're willing to pay you more to get it done faster. That's always something to consider as well. But I think it's just important to understand the amount of time that it's going to take you for each job that you take. So just be careful if you take multiple commissions at one time. You know that you're not going to be able to get them both done at the same time. You're going to have to wait until you get the one finished and then start the next one. So that's really going to push it out there, especially if you're a solo painter like me. I always did all of these commissions all by myself. I never worked with anybody else. So so just finding the time to actually get this done and the commitment. Are you going to feel like painting these guys every day? Things happen. We get sick. We just don't feel like it sometimes. It's just something to consider, is the amount of time that now you've committed to getting somebody else's miniatures painted up. So it's just something to think about. All right, and now everybody's favorite topic, money. How much money can you really make doing commission work? Well, I think that all depends on how you want to charge the clients. I charge by the job. I don't think that there is a way that I could possibly charge by the hour. For me, I'm not the fastest painter in the world, and I just would not feel comfortable charging somebody if I am kind of painting slow that day or something. So I've always just charged by the job. And that's something too that you just kind of got a feel for with how much is your time worth. And for everybody, it's something different. What is your level of painting? Are you going to have different prices? If somebody just wants a quick Slapchop, Speedpaint job on their miniatures, that might be a little less than if they want basing, layering, washing, highlighting, and all that kind of stuff. Are you going to charge them to build the miniatures? To what level are you going to charge them for assembling them? If they only want them semi-cleaned, if they're not worried about the gaps being filled in. There's all these different things to consider when you're setting your price range. And for me, it's always just been kind of difficult because myself as a painter, I would never pay somebody to paint my miniatures because I enjoy doing it. So for me, it's kind of hard to get that mentality of how much would I actually pay to have somebody else do this. And to be honest, I'm pretty cheap. So that's something as well too. But it's kind of up to you. You can start off at a certain rate, do a small commission first at a certain rate, and then see how it goes. Was it worth it or was it not worth it? In my experience, this would be a very difficult job to do full time. I like to do it just kind of part time when I feel like doing it. This extra money that I make from doing commissions, I use it to pay for my hobby then. You know, if there's a certain board game that I'm looking for, because board games are easily over $100 now, but if there's a certain board game I'm looking for, or if there's a new unit of Space Marines or something that I'm looking to buy, so I use the commission money then to buy my stuff. And then it's not coming out of the family budget and such. Sometimes I often feel guilty taking out of the family budget to buy my figurines and my games to play. But this kind of just helps alleviate that. And it gives you a reason to keep working it too. Or it gives you a reason to keep going with the commission. It keeps pushing you forward like, hey, when I get this done, I'm going to be able to buy this for myself. And it makes you feel pretty good to get it done. But yeah, as I said, money, I don't think that you're going to become a millionaire by doing any commission work. But again, it all depends on your skill level and what you think your time is worth. You can charge anything, and I'm sure that you're going to find people out there that will pay pretty much anything to get their miniatures painted up and on the table because they just don't have the time to do it themselves. And they just enjoy playing way more than what they do painting. So I'm sure that they don't mind paying top dollar to get them done and on the table. But yeah, that's kind of how I've always experienced the money of it. And as I said, I haven't ever tried to do this like full time. I've just kind of more or less done it part-time, and it has certainly helped out with paying for some of my hobbies. So I feel like it was worth it. And you might too. Oh, and before I forget, something else to consider with money is that there's going to be some costs associated with it. No, you are going to have to supply the brushes, the X-Acto knives, the glue, definitely the paints, unless you have all of this already from your own stash and you don't mind using it. But that's something to consider as well whenever you're doing the pricing and such, is that some of that money that you're getting paid is going to have to go into supply. So it's not just going to be total profit. You are going to have to kind of restock once in a while. So just something else to think about. And finally, just something else to consider is the risk of burnout. I enjoy painting miniatures, but I definitely go through bouts of burnout. And this can certainly happen if you're doing commission work. Painting 150 miniatures from a large board game is certainly a lot of painting. And if you're anything like me, sometimes that's enough for a while. Like, you get that finished, you do not feel like painting anything else for a month or two. So that's just kind of something else to consider if you're lining up commissions back to back and you're promising people that you're going to get these things done. It's a large commitment sometimes, and you don't always feel like doing it. And it's a shame that if you start getting burned out, especially halfway through a project, well, then your quality is going to slip a little bit. And, you know, if you're paying somebody to paint your miniatures, you're not going to want half of the box painted to this standard, and then all of a sudden the other half of the box is painted to a lower standard because they just kind of got bored or they got burned out of painting. So that's just something to think about whenever you go to take a commission, is make sure that you have a clear understanding of how many miniatures are included before you go ahead and commit to it. Because you get halfway through, you can't just say like, ugh, I'm done, I don't want to do no more. You're probably going to really get bashed for that on social media. And that's just going to hurt your clientele if you're taking this seriously and you want to kind of continue with this. And also, when you're painting somebody else's miniatures and you happen to get burned out, or you're just stuck with a lot of commissions, you're not going to have time then to paint your own miniatures. And after a while, that kind of gets it to be a bummer. I've painted tons of miniatures for people, and they'll look super cool at the end, and it's like, you just give them back to that person and you never see them again. I mean, you can keep the pictures and look back on them once in a while, but it kind of sucks to paint them up and they look really cool and you're really happy with it, and then you give it away to somebody. Well, I mean, you don't give it away, they're paying you for your services, but it's just something to think about, that, you know, these miniatures that you're painting, they're not for you to keep. And in the meantime, you're not getting any of your own work done, unless you just have an unlimited amount of time and you're setting aside like time for yourself and time for the commissions. But I've always kind of been more so, when I do take a commission, that kind of takes priority over my own miniatures, and I just kind of work on that enough to get it done and finished and back to the client as soon as possible. So just something to consider is that doing commissions can kind of ultimately lead to a burnout where you don't want to paint any more miniatures. And it's just something to think about. So to summarize things up, these are just a few of the experiences and thoughts that I had that I wanted to share with everybody as far as commission work goes. In my experience, it's been very positive. I've met a lot of nice people doing this. They've, for the most part, been extremely appreciative and very happy with the end results. I haven't had any really negative experiences with anything, so I kind of count my blessings with that. The money has helped me buy a lot of games and figures that maybe I wouldn't have bought if I didn't have the extra money. It has certainly helped me build up my supplies of stuff, because every commission, you know, there might be different colors that somebody wants or different styles of paints that somebody wants, and it's helped me build up my collection then, because I use the money that I'm getting from the commission to buy the supplies and go from there. So yeah, it's definitely something to consider. I would not take on huge commissions right away. I would not take on multiple commissions or back-to-back commissions right away. I would definitely dabble first, do a few small ones, see if it's right for you. But just keep in mind, a lot of people who have done commission paintings that I know of, they kind of burned out fast, and it didn't last very long. So you definitely have to do it when you feel like it, because it can really cause some issues if you don't. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on commission painting. Let me know if you guys like this content. If you do, I'm happy to discuss it further or make some more videos following up. I like to be pretty honest with how it's worked out for me, so I don't mind answering any questions. But yeah, I hope that you guys found this a little bit interesting, and I hope it helps somebody out there decide whether or not, if you're on the fence, whether you should start some commission painting or not. Hopefully some of this gave you something to think about and maybe sway you one way or another. It can be good and it can be bad. Some things you're not going to be able to help, but you're just with a little bit of caution and a little bit of planning. Yeah, it could be a profitable hobby. So with that, I want to say thanks for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.